Okay, so let me show you the formula, how it is being calculated, and then you'll be able to ask more questions or maybe able to comment more. So I'm just using I'm just using a calculator, so you can go to Google. Can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Just mention sample size calculator here. The first link that you can see, the servicesystem.com, click on it. Scroll. Just to tell you, as per the industry standards, we consider 95% and 99% as confidence level. Okay. Uh, these are the two metrics that we take into consideration. For service sort of industry, we consider 95, and sometimes we consider 99 also. Confidence interval, we just talked about the margin of error. Population, that we already know. So let's do an exercise, and then you'll be able to ask more questions or maybe comment better. So let's say I have considered 95% as a confidence level, which I'm saying that I want to be at least 95% confident on the population means, on the sample mean against the population. So let's say if I put population of, I said I have data of 5,000, just an example, and I can live with plus minus 3 margin of error. So I just mentioned 3 here. Okay. So just once again, confidence level of 95% plus minus 3 confidence interval. I just have to mention number here. No need to mention plus minus. The tool automatically understands it. The calculation happens in the backend itself. And here I mention a population. The moment I click on calculate, it gives me a sample size needed. Okay. So with the 5,000 population, with 95% confidence interval, with plus minus 3 here and there, sample mean, I require 880 sample size to draw a conclusion. When I do a 888 versus 5,000, I would be 95% accurate with plus minus 3 margin of error. Now, let me ask you a question. If I put 99 here instead of 95, will my sample size increases or decreases? What do you think?
It will increase.
Decrease.
It will increase. Are we all sure?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Yes, because now I have given a condition that I want to be more confident than I was earlier against the population that I have. Okay. Let me do one more trick. If I put a confidence interval of 2 here,
it will still increase the sample.
It will increase or decrease?
Increase.
Why?
Because the margin of error is much lower now. So we have to be, like much more confident.
Yeah, absolutely. Because now I'm giving a very less scope of error. I'm very, very stringent. Okay. So it would reduce. It would increase. Okay. So let's say if I put here 5 here instead of 3, will my sample size increase or decrease?
Decrease.
Sorry?
It will decrease, Simar.
It will decrease. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yes. So these are the things that we want to look at. So just a recap. If we have a humongous data in place, first of all, do a stratified sampling, taking all the parameters that we talked about. Okay. Wherein please do a quota sampling first, do a proportionate sampling, take all the data points into consideration, equal amount of sampling as per the proportionate. Okay. After doing that, my bad. First of all, you should get to the number of sample size required. Okay. So let's say you have 1,000 data points, get to the right sample size, and then do the sampling. Now somebody should ask me a question, which I was wondering that somebody should ask, but nobody asked. How do I decide that whether I should go for 5 confidence interval, 3 confidence interval, 1 confidence interval? How do I decide that? What do you think? So nobody asked me, so I'm asking you now. I think you are sure about it. So who would like to answer this question? How do we decide that what kind of margin of error or confidence interval that I should consider here?
I'm not sure, Simar, I might be wrong, but
Yeah.
if you have data points, if you have seen the data points, and if you have outliers in your data, considerable outliers, then you want a confidence level to be higher.
Okay, so that's the first version. Anybody else? So my question is very simple. How do I decide that how much confidence interval means margin of error plus minus I should take into consideration? How do I decide that?
Based on the past experience.
Based on the past experience. Okay, that's what Anand also talks about. Historically, what is my defect rate that I can look at? So for example, if I have the data points and I want to calculate that how much quality sample should I take into consideration. So then I say that my past historical data says my current quality score is 97%. Okay, which means I have a margin of error plus minus 3. So I can take plus minus 3 into consideration. Is there any other way also that I can decide that what should be my confidence interval? So this is very logical. Yes.
Yeah, it can be on the basis of whether, let's say that you did an analysis and the analysis, the pass or fail of that analysis is captured within the confidence interval. So that means that let's say that you're analyzing whether a certain candidate would win an election, and 51% is the winning, and you're getting 53% votes go to the candidate, but your confidence interval says it will be 49% to 58%. So you cannot say for certain that okay, with this the person will win. So for that reason, you will go for more polling and you will go for like a smaller margin of error. Did I say it right?
So that's your version. That's your point of thinking. But is there any uniformity way? Is there any uniform way of deciding that what should be my confidence interval?
No, it depends upon the process that is under consideration. So if we are going for any task that depends upon high precision of measurement, in that case we may take the confidence interval to be higher, up to 99% or something. And if you are going for some process which is not very critical, in that case we can reduce it to 95%, 96% something. And it also depends upon the customer's requirement in terms of quality.
Absolutely. So that is the perfect answer, Piyush. It depends upon the customer requirement as well. Okay, and it depends upon your voice of customer. It depends upon your voice of business. If you're not sure about it, if you don't have any kind of historical data, please check with your customer or please check with your business owner that, sir, ma'am, what is the sort of margin of error we can afford in a process. And that's how you'll be able to calculate 95% or 99% confidence level, or plus minus 3 or plus minus 2 or plus minus 1 confidence interval. Okay, so that's how you'll be able to.
Even your customer also will give the target based on his past experience only, right?
Yeah. So majority of the customers, when we have the data for, let's say, 500 customers, and when we calculate the average out of it, and where we see that majority of the customer says that a delay of 1 day is okay with me. Okay. So for example, you're doing a questionnaire, you're doing a survey, wherein you ask that question from the customer, sir, that how likely are you going to be waiting for the product to be delivered as per the expected time? Is it 1 to 2 days, 2 to 3 days? And basis the sample that we calculate, basis that we can decide. If we can't do the questionnaire sort of way, if you think it's very time consuming, then in that case we can look at the business voice to ask that if the process is very critical, wherein we know that it can lead to more defects, then in that case we can take the voice of our business also. Okay, but historically, as per the standard, plus minus 3 confidence interval and 95% confidence level is the default that we look at, but you can always modify it as per your convenience. Okay. So let's.
One question. So, here we have taken a certain population, but what if the population is unknown? And I know that for high population, it will the population size will not matter. But let's say it's not very high. It's somewhere between 5 to 10,000, but you don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
How will we get the sample size then?
So is your question talks about whether we should do a sampling in that case or not?
No. We have to take a sampling, but we don't know the sample size. We don't know the population size. So even if we know the confidence interval and confidence level, how will we be able to see, okay, this much sample size is required?
So you're saying when we don't have a population,
we don't know the population size.
So when we don't know the population size, then I would not be able to do the sampling then.
Oh, okay.
I would have some sort of a data which has been given to me. Let's say if I'm doing a project on improving the productivity, and I have considered 6 months data as a baselining, that basis last 6 months I am at 25%. So that 6 month is your population that you've taken into consideration, and basis that 6 month population you are calculating the sample. So you would have data of some data of that way, wherein you would be able to calculate the average out of it, and basis that only you've defined your problem statement.
Simar, just a question on what he was talking about. We can still calculate the sample on an infinite population as well, right?
Yes, we can do that. No matter whatever the population that you have, you can if you refer to this, if you want to mention it as 50,000 here, okay, and you mention, because the more sample size you have, you want to be very, very closer, so you mention 99% here, and you get the sample size here. So you can put any number here, you would definitely get a sample size.
What about for the new processes? If we don't have any past data about the process and we are going to launch the new processes in the market, then how we can
Then in
define
that, yeah, so that becomes that doesn't become a DMAX sort of a way. That becomes a DMA/DV sort of a way, wherein there are different techniques, tools and techniques which are required to come to a sample size. And in that particular case, there is a benchmark which can be taken into consideration. For example, any other industry have done it, okay, wherein it can be compared with the population of that particular state also. So for example, if you're launching a new product, okay, and you see that in that particular, and you want to launch a product in, let's say, Mumbai or maybe New Delhi, you know the population of New Delhi, yeah, and now you can compare. So there are certain combinations that takes place while doing the sampling when you don't have any sort of data in place. So there are certain different logics. Yes.
I would like to add one thing. So while designing a new product or while offering a new product in marketing, what we do STP, segmentation, targeting, and positioning.
Yeah.
Based upon that, we calculate the population size. And generally, while doing this process, we definitely have the population size. Then only we design anything or we go for a new process or anything. And only thing that can be missing is population parameters, which is either standard deviation or mean. Out of these two things, we can have both missing. One of them missing. This situation can happen. But generally, population of can be determined using different marketing techniques like STP.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. So these are the techniques, because the kind of training or the kind of project that we are into, we always have a data, okay? Because when we don't have a data, then in that case we won't be doing a DMAX sort of a training or a DMAX sort of a project. So this scenario would only come place when we are working on any market sort of survey or any market sort of research. So they have different sort of tools and techniques available to calculate that thing. Okay, I think that's what Piyush talked about. But yes, when we are doing the Six Sigma project, the DMAC project, you would always have the data, and with the help of that, you'll be able to calculate the population mean and the sample mean. Okay.
Simar, I have a doubt. See, in the manufacturing field, we have a quality for sampling plans as per the ISO standard. Can we consider those sampling plans also for this?
What do you mean by sampling plans?
ISO has a sampling in the manufacturing. If you are having a production quantity of 2 to 50, then the sampling plan says you need to take a measure for the 8 or something approximately. I'm saying it would be 8 numbers you need to measure, or if it is 50 to 100, then they say it is 10 numbers you need to take the data. So can we have that sampling plan also here?
Okay, so very good question, Kishore. So what he's asking is that outside Six Sigma also, there are various ways to get to the right sample size. Basis certain calculation, basis some process metrics. This sort of sampling technique that I've talked about is only pertaining to Six Sigma. However, every process, every industry, every field have their own techniques. And this sampling techniques that we have calculated is only and only used to get to a right amount of sample size to do the analysis, which would be able to identify what are the constraints, what are the causes that we have, what are the insights, and with the help of that, we come to the root cause and resolve business issues. So that was in terms of Six Sigma statistically that we get to these numbers. But if there's any business unit who use their own ISO standards to get to the sample size, that is not pertaining to the resolving any particular problem that we face in terms of Six Sigma. That can be formed from a measuring standpoint. So for example, if you have 100 units, how much you should be measuring, how much you should be inspecting. But when it comes to Six Sigma, when it comes to statistically looking at the problem, this is a technique that we usually follow when we are working on Six Sigma projects.
Okay.
Okay. But yes, if there are any technique which are there, probably that can be used for normal day-to-day process. But for doing Six Sigma projects, be it a manufacturing, be it service, this is a technique we follow.
Right.
This is only for projects. Okay.